Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Al-Idrisi, author of The Muslim Narcissist. In today's podcast, we will be talking about narcissistic Muslim in-laws and how to understand and deal with them. So we will start off by addressing the women who have issues with their in-laws. I will come on to the men later on in this podcast. But seeing as it's an issue that women complain about more than men, I'll address the women first. So I receive a lot of inquiries and a lot of complaints about women, especially dealing with their narcissistic mother-in-laws, narcissistic father-in-laws, even narcissistic sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws. And they want to know, they want to be sure that they are doing the right thing in those relationships, in the way that they deal with narcissistic in-laws. And they also want an understanding of, what it is that they're dealing with. Because many people, when they get into a relationship, to a marriage with somebody, and they have difficult family members that someone has to deal with, it can become very traumatizing, and it can make someone very depressed to have to deal with difficult in-laws, especially when their own families are difficult as well. So if they have narcissists in their own families, it's just so difficult and so just so depressing having to deal with more narcissists in your life, because you've now married into a family. That's very difficult. So I'm going to break this down for you so that you understand exactly what it is you're dealing with, and you can understand why the relationships are the way they are. So let's start with a Muslim woman who is married to a narcissistic man. Now, the narcissistic man could either have a bad relationship with his mother or a good relationship with his mother. Now, the one who has a bad relationship with his mother usually means that mother is codependent. So he's often rude to her. You often feel like he's got issues with her, deep issues. And she is the one who is constantly she's always walking on eggshells around him. Because her husband is the narcissistic one in the family. Her being codependent means that her son will not have that respect for her. He will not respect how she is just too weak and too submissive to his father and his abuse. So over time, that tolerance of abuse reduces the respect that her narcissistic son has for her. And so you'll find that he's very cold with her, he's rough with her, he's not very kind, compassionate or empathic. Even when she's going through a trauma, maybe someone's died in the family and she needs that comfort, he's not the one who's going to be there for her emotionally. And because of all the trauma and abuse that she had gone through, like when they were young, when her children were young, she didn't find the time or the energy to be able to nurture her children properly. So you'll find that this narcissistic son didn't get the love, care and attention that he would have craved from his mother as a child, because she was so busy dealing with all the abuse that she was going through. She was busy dealing with her own depression. She was busy dealing with all the issues that had come into that marriage that she now needed to deal with. So you'll find that a lot of codependent mothers didn't have the time or the energy to actually, really love their children properly, especially their boys. So this narcissistic son would have been deprived of that love and care as a child. And he would have grown up with a resentment towards his mother, because a lot of codependent mothers as well, they do expect that their children owe them when they're older for staying in the marriage to keep, the family together so that the children could be raised under one roof. Codependent mothers do have that attitude towards their children, which is, I stayed in this marriage for you and tolerated all the abuse from your father so that we could still be one family. So you now owe me compliance, you owe me good treatment, you owe me this, you owe me that. And narcissistic children in particular hate that. They really hate that so much, because they don't feel like they owe their mothers anything at all, because they didn't receive the love that they needed themselves as children. So these men, narcissistic men, will be the ones to be very controlling over their mothers. They will control that relationship. Whatever he says will go. She's very intimidated by him because he has the support of his narcissistic father. So if a woman is married to a narcissistic man, you will find that the codependent mother, she's often very nice, very, very nice to the woman he's married, especially if she is codependent. Now, if this woman is codependent, who's married the narcissistic man, the mother will see herself in this new wife. She will see herself in the daughter-in-law, and she'll be compassionate towards her. So you might find that she might even spoil her. She might make food for her. She might buy her gifts and clothes, because she needs this woman to stay in the marriage with her son for as long as possible. She's trying to help the woman tolerate what she knows her son is going to put his wife through. So she's viewing herself, she's seeing herself in this woman, and she's trying to make it more bearable. She knows what this woman is going through. She sees her unhappiness. She sees that she's really struggling with her husband. She sees that, maybe she's complaining. Maybe she's complaining about her son. Your son isn't very nice to me. Your son is very cold to me. And she tries to sweeten you up. She tries to hold on to you, because she knows her son is difficult, and she knows that you're good for him. She knows that if he gets a divorce, then she's going to have to go back to dealing with him again. But now that he's married, he's distracted, with another woman, and he is just, he's more pleasant to be around, because when he's got a new wife and new in-laws, he's going to treat his mother better in front of them, and she enjoys that. She really enjoys the fact that he treats her better when he's around people, because he's got to put this false self up in front of strangers. So you'll find that the codependent mother is always inviting the mother's, her daughter-in-law's family over. She's always doing things, to make her son look good. She's always doing things socially so that her son can treat her better. Her son will treat her better when he's in the presence of a new wife and new in-laws. So you'll find that the codependent mother really does hold on to that wife. Really, really holds on to that wife, because, again, she's very compassionate with her, and she's just trying to help her navigate the marriage in a better way than she did, because she knows her son very well. So she might even give the daughter-in-law tips on how to deal with him. She might tell her, do this and do that, because she knows her son very well, and she wants this marriage to work. Now, if this codependent woman was to leave the marriage, the mother may turn nasty. She may turn very nasty and turn against her, because she had all hope that this codependent wife would stay in this marriage with her son and just make life bearable for everybody. So when the codependent has enough and she walks away, then it just creates a crisis. It creates a crisis for the mother-in-law. But more often than not, the codependent wife does not leave. She stays in that marriage for as long as possible. She stays in that marriage for far too long. And she is abused by the narcissistic sisters in that marriage. So if she's got narcissistic sisters-in-law, she will not be respected by them, because they can see in their eyes she's being a doormat to their brother. And the loyalty will always lie with their brother. So whenever they have problems, whenever she has problems with her husband, his sisters will always side with him. They will always show loyalty to him. Narcissistic family members all get together against the codependent and the empath when things go wrong. They will always side with each other, because they've got their family reputation to protect. So that is what usually tends to happen. Now, in this dynamic, the father is usually quite nice. He's usually quite passive. He's quite nice. He's quite sweet. And he doesn't really like to get involved much. He just watches from afar. But he's pleasant. He's pleasant to the codependent daughter-in-law. But he is upset deep inside that she's tolerating the abuse that he can see his son putting her through. So you'll find that a lot of these women go through spiritual abuse, religious abuse, all sorts of abuse, because they stay for far too long, and they have children. They'll keep having children because the mother-in-law tends to pull her back in. If it's not the husband, it's the mother-in-law that tends to pull her back in. But she doesn't get the support from her narcissistic sister-in-laws, who are not very nice to her. They will treat her in a bad way. They will not include her in social events. They will not make things for her. They may not invite her. She is treated like a doormat by everybody narcissistic in that family. So that's the codependent woman who is married to a narcissistic husband who does not have a good relationship with his mother because she is codependent. Now, a codependent woman who is married to a narcissistic husband who does have a good relationship with his mother is often the golden child. He is the mummy's boy. The mummy's boy, and he is the apple of her eye. This husband was overly spoiled as a child. So instead of, as opposed to the situation before where he was neglected as a child by his mother, the narcissistic mother would have put him on a pedestal ever since he was a child, and she would have overly spoiled him. And that is why he's become a mummy's boy, and he's become entitled. He feels entitled to everything that he wants. Now, if he marries a codependent woman, she will more often than not either be very timid, very submissive, very shy, very religious. She's not the type to be on social media. She comes from a good family. She's educated, all of these things. Now, the narcissistic mother-in-law, she would have chosen her because she sees that this woman will serve her son in the best way. So they do look for submissiveness. They do look for someone religious, someone that they can manipulate with religion so that her narcissistic son will have a long-lasting marriage to somebody who will serve him like his mother's always served him. Nothing else will be good enough. And the codependent woman in this scenario is often miserable because she's constantly getting compared to his mother. So if she doesn't cook something properly, he will say, oh, my mother does it so much better. His mother might even dress better than her. Whatever it is that the mother-in-law likes or does or excels in, she will always be compared to the mother-in-law. He will tell all their problems to his mother. He will always go back to his mother whenever he's got an issue. And the narcissistic mother-in-law will intimidate, scare, and threaten the codependent daughter-in-law into complying and, into making sure that her precious son is happy. And she's constantly reminding the codependent daughter-in-law that, she must be grateful. She's lucky to have a man like him as a husband. He might be a doctor, a surgeon, a lawyer. There's nothing special about him apart from the fact that he was the golden boy. Now, if this man has narcissistic sisters, again, he will have their loyalty in regards to, problematic days when the woman's complaining about this guy and the sisters are saying, well, a lot of them will have an issue because he's the one who's overly spoiled. So some of them may stand with the codependent wife and some of them may stand against her. It depends. It depends on how they view their brother and how their relationship is with the brother. But if they're sick of him being the golden child, they may actually take your side. They may take the side of the codependent daughter-in-law. So if the woman is, if she's religious, she will get really religiously abused here. She will have every hadith and every Quran verse used in order to get her compliance, in order to get her serving her in-laws. She will be the one serving her in-laws all the time. You will find that a narcissistic mother-in-law who has a narcissistic son and narcissistic daughters too, she will get the codependent daughter-in-law to be doing all the house chores. If she's living with them, she will be doing the cooking, she will be doing the serving when guests come, and her own daughters will be sitting around doing nothing, just sitting there all dressed up looking pretty. But it's almost like the codependent daughter-in-law is the one who should be running around serving everyone and doing everything, and she's meant to accept that. And unfortunately, a lot of codependent daughter-in-laws do accept it and they do run around doing it. They just hold the resentment inside, they hold the anger inside, They don't know who to speak to about it, because everyone seems to have conditioned her into accepting that this is her role in the family. And more often than not, she's always very pressurized into living with the in-laws, so that the mother-in-law especially can have full control over her. When the husband is not at home, the mother-in-law can keep an eye on her. She will go through her things. She will invade her privacy. She will go through her clothes, her makeup. She will go through her room when she's working, when she's away, when she's visiting her family. The narcissistic mother-in-law will find that she is entitled to go through everything that, the codependent daughter-in-law owns. There is a serious invasion of privacy, because the mother-in-law now perceives this woman as someone that she owns. She belongs to our family now, so we own her, we condition her. Because she's shy and passive and submissive, she now belongs to us, and we mould her into what we want. And that's why a lot of these mother-in-laws, they like to get their sons married to very young women. Very, very young women in their early 20s or even 18, 19, because they know that a woman in her 30s wouldn't accept that. So if the woman starts to rebel, if she wants out, then she's terribly discarded. She's discarded in a really horrific, disgusting way by the man and his family, and she's basically thrown out onto the street. She's treated so badly when she insists on a divorce. And because of how horrific the process is of getting a divorce from a family like this, a lot of codependent women stay silent, and they endure all the abuse that they get from their in-laws and this narcissistic husband in order to not go through that experience, especially if they have children. If they have children, the narcissistic mother-in-law will try and condition her grandchildren into being like her. She again puts them on a pedestal as well and turns them narcissistic, which is also a problem for the daughter-in-law, because she doesn't want her children to grow up like her in-laws. So there's usually a lot of conflict here. So it's very exhausting for a codependent to be married to a narcissistic husband who is the golden child. He will forever remind her that she is the lucky one, and she must be grateful that she's entered such a family, and that she's married him. So the constant comparisons she will be going through will be the main cause of what cripples her and her self-esteem. She will always be depleted of her self-esteem and her happiness and her sense of self being married to such a person. So that's that situation. Now, if a woman is narcissistic and she's married to a narcissistic husband in the same scenario, then what will happen is the narcissistic mother-in-law, she will grab a golden opportunity to get her son married to a woman who is narcissistic, but she knows and he knows it's not going to be forever. It's not going to be long term. So I'll give you an example. Let's say a Muslim narcissistic mother-in-law comes across a woman, or he comes across, her son comes across a woman who agrees to marry him, and she might be a famous influencer. She might be a famous makeup artist or a celebrity, or someone from an aristocratic family in their society. And she's fallen in love with the narcissistic son. Now, what the narcissistic mother-in-law here sees is that, let me get him married to her so that I can prove a point in society that we are able to have women like this in our family. We're worth it. So what she will do is she will go out of her way, she will take it as a great opportunity to go out of her way and spend so much money on all the events that she's now going to do for her son. So it'll be the engagement, it'll be the nikah, it will be the wedding. I mean, I've seen people hire the Natural History Museum, completely hire it out to have a wedding, just to prove a point that we have money. We are wealthy, This is who we are. praise us and validate us for all this money that we have and this status that we have, and that we're able to do all of these things. So a narcissistic mother, because she's so desperate for that validation in society, she shows off. She goes out of her way to completely show off financially about everything that she's able to do. It's just her opportunity to show people how much money she's got or hasn't got. Sometimes they borrow money from banks in order to do this. And so the husband, they already know that a woman like this is not going to be someone who will stick around long term to serve him. She's not going to be that kind of person, because this type of woman is very feminist. She's very arrogant. She's also very narcissistic. So as we know, and I've said in previous podcasts, two narcissistic people can't live together for very long. They cannot, because there's always a struggle for power. She will always want to dominate him and he will always want to dominate her, and it just becomes very toxic. So he knows already that this marriage isn't going to last very long, but however, it's worth it for the fame he's going to get from being married to an influencer. It's worth it, for the short-term fame he's going to get from being married to a celebrity or someone aristocratic or someone wealthy. So that is the only time when a narcissistic man will marry a narcissistic woman, with the support of his narcissistic mother, because she can see the social gain in him doing so. But she will hate her daughter-in-law. Like, they will get along very well in the beginning until because these are two narcissistic women are dating with each other, the narc mother-in-law and the narc daughter-in-law, there will be a power struggle again, because the daughter-in-law will want full control over the son, and the narcissistic mother-in-law will feel like, no, he belongs to me. She starts getting jealous. She starts getting really jealous that this woman is taking away her son. She's trying to get control, and they start to compete with each other. It's another very toxic relationship where they start to compete each other over the control of this guy, and he's enjoying it. He is enjoying watching them struggle for control over him, because he knows at the end of the day he's going to get rid of this woman, and his mother, his loyalty will always lie with his mother, and that's what drives the narc wife crazy. It drives her crazy because his loyalty will always lie with the mother, and it drives the codependent wife crazy too, because every time he does something so terrible, or the mother, or she goes and complains about his mother. Your mother's done this to me. She's invaded my privacy. She's been rude to me. She didn't talk to me today. She treats that daughter-in-law better than she treats me. He's not going to care, because the narc son will always, always be more loyal to his mother. Always. And that's what, again, it causes a lot of depression in both narcissistic wives and codependent wives, because no matter what they do, they never seem to get their problems solved because of his loyalty to his mother. She is never the priority. The mother is always the priority, and the narc mother always ensures that is the case. She will always make sure that I'm the priority. Get rid of the wife if she's starting to cause problems between me and my son. So if you are a codependent or a narcissistic woman, and you've got a narc husband like this, and you insist on moving out of the family home and getting your own independent, marital home, the narc mother-in-law now is going to be threatened by that. So what is she going to do? She's going to tell her son to divorce you. She's going to demand that he divorces you. She doesn't care. The narc mother does not care if her son's marriage lasts. All she cares about is, he's my son, he's my boy, he belongs to me. Even if he gets married and divorced 10 times, it doesn't matter. He belongs to me, he's mine. He's my puppet, not your puppet. It will infuriate her to see that her son is showing more loyalty to his wife. It infuriates her. She can't have it. And that's why a lot of mother-in-laws scheme for the divorce of their daughter-in-laws. They scheme for it. They scheme for it when you're not serving the son very well, when you're not being a doormat and not being a slave to her expectations. She will encourage him to divorce you, or she will encourage him to divorce you when she sees that there's a power struggle. She's getting jealous now because, there's a fight for control. And she's too exhausted. She can't be bothered to fight with her daughter-in-law over the control of this husband. So she just she will do everything possible to encourage him to divorce her. Now, if a woman is empathic, again, we go back to the same scenario of the codependent woman. However, the empathic woman that a narcissistic man will marry, she doesn't last very long in that family because she knows the game. She knows exactly who they are. She will get deceived into marrying into a family because they may look very religious, they may look very kind, they may look very charitable in society, they may have, a good reputation because they keep up appearances and they keep up this false facade of who they want to show people that they are. So a lot of empathic people do get sucked into toxic families, toxic in-laws, because they're still naive. It's usually the first marriage of that empathic woman. She will be very naive to them actually being fake in how they present themselves in society. So she might be someone who is impressed by their religious, how they present themselves in a religious manner. And she says, you know what, this is what I want. I want a religious family. I want a family that, I feel safe raising my children in. He prays, the man, the narc, she doesn't know he's a narc at this time. But she's seeing what he wants her to see. So she goes into this marriage with good intention and discovers that actually it's not a good family. Like, what they present themselves to be is not who they truly are on the inside. And she will just want out. She will want out of the situation. If she wants out of the situation, they will discard her terribly. They will discard her. They will put the blame on her. They will have a smear campaign against her because she's humiliated them by leaving. Like, oh, are we not good enough? Are we not good enough for you? They don't realise that their mask will slip when someone gets comfortable in their environment. Their masks slip and people see them for who they are. But because they don't see that, they don't see where they've slipped up or gone wrong, they see the empathic woman as being very arrogant, very entitled, and they start a smear campaign against her. Now, some empathic women who have children in these relationships with narcissistic men, they stay in the relationship until their children are old enough for them to, before they apply for a divorce, because they're too scared that their children will be taken away from them. They're too scared that their children, while they're babies and toddlers, will be brainwashed by the family. So a lot of empathic women will stay in marriages, and men too, until their children are old enough to understand that, their mother loves them and their mother is there for them. And they're at an age where co-parenting will be easier because the children are more aware of what's going on. So some empathic women will stay until that point. But once a family like this, a narcissistic family, or a narcissistic husband, once he starts to realise that the empathic woman is onto them, she's onto their game, and she knows who they are. Maybe she's mentioned it. Maybe she said, you know what, I'm not dealing with this. This is not what I deserve. This is not who I thought you were. I want out of this marriage, and she's got a supportive family that she can go back to. This is when they give her an easy divorce, because they know that if they don't give her an easy divorce, she will ruin their reputation. So they have to get rid of her before she ruins their reputation. So if they make a divorce very ugly, and this is only when they believe that she's going to ask for a divorce. She hasn't asked for a divorce yet. This is when they know it's coming. They will encourage her husband to divorce her quickly, and she will get out easily. But when she just divorces, when she files for a divorce without any warning, they haven't seen it coming, that is when they'll do the smear campaign. and they'll talk about her so badly. She will be one of the best Muslim women in that community, and they will talk about her and slander her and launch a smear campaign against her that will send her into a depression because they're ruining her reputation. It's revenge. It's revenge for humiliating them. It's revenge for discarding them before they discard you. They need a heads up. A family like that need a heads up. So if they get a feeling that you are really fed up now being with them, really fed up, and by the way, narcissistic families hate empathic women. They hate them because they see you as more superior to them. They see you as more intelligent than them. And you will find that they will just treat you so badly for no reason whatsoever. They won't be there for you when you have a baby. The mother-in-law will not take care of you. They will not come round to look after you and support you. They will not do anything for you. And you have no idea why. Now, sometimes if you complain about their son or you complain about things that they do, they don't take that very well. And they will hold a grudge against you for the rest of that marriage. For as long as you stay in that marriage, they will hold a grudge, but they will never tell you why. They will never tell you why they have a problem with you. They will never tell you why they're ignoring you or treating you badly. It's just mind games that they play to get you to be the people pleaser. They want you to be running around, for them, like the codependent woman. The codependent woman, they treat her the same, but the difference between the empath woman and the codependent woman is that the codependent woman is willing to people please. She's willing to do whatever it takes to keep the peace, whatever it takes to be liked and loved and accepted, because she's living in that house with them and it's unbearable to have a bad relationship with people that you're living with. So a codependent woman will go out of her way and serve everybody and be super nice to everybody, but the empathic woman won't do that, and they hate her for it. They hate her for the fact that she's not, being a slave to them, and that she's bothered that they don't like her. She's bothered that she's not getting answers from them, but she will distance herself. She will be more of somebody who will distance herself and not visit them and not invite them. And the more she does that, the more they hate her. So when they get the impression that she's about to ask for a divorce, or she's really had enough and she wants out and she's maybe asking for mediation, asking for counselling, they will go to her husband and tell him, divorce her. Divorce her before she brings an entire shame on this family. You've got to discard her before she has the chance to launch a smear campaign against us and ruin our reputation. So you'll find that a man will brutally divorce his empathic wife for no reason. Again, no reason. Just for the fact that, they all get together, all the narcs get together in that family and agree on what's in their best interests. So empathic women are often traumatized in this situation because they would have endured a lot, to keep this family together, and they really honor marriage. They really honor, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Islamic marriage, and they don't take divorce lightly. So when they're divorced just like that, it can be very difficult for them to get over, and move on, because they're always thinking, how can they do that to me? What did I do to them for them to treat me like that? An empathic woman will struggle to get over a divorce like that, especially when, it took her such a long time to reach a decision to separate, whereas they just got rid of her very quickly. And as we know, when the narc family gets involved, they punish that empathic woman for wanting to leave by making it very difficult to co-parent. And that's another subject for another day. But that's what usually happens in that scenario. Now, if a codependent woman is married to a codependent man, She will. So we're done with narcissists now. We're done with the whole narcissistic husband category. We're now moving on to a codependent or an empathic woman married to a codependent man. Now, the codependent man, if he has a narcissistic mother, she will be controlling, very controlling over him. And again, what drives a lot of women crazy who are married to these codependent men is that these codependent men cannot stand up for themselves. They cannot stand up for themselves and for their wives. They can't do it because they have been used to being controlled all their lives by their mothers. And it's usually religious manipulation. So a mother will she'll make her son feel very guilty for disobeying her, not listening to her, not prioritizing her, and she will always test, his level of priorities by causing problems in his marriage. Constantly. She may constantly call him, ask him to do things. He's got other siblings that can do it. But if he's got narcissistic siblings, they don't give. Narcissistic people are not givers. They aren't servers. They don't do all of that. She has her own benefits from them when the time comes. However, with codependent men, she will always rely on him because he has that fear of Allah. He's got that culture in him that honors the parents. He's got that empathy. Is also guilt-tripped a lot. Always guilt-tripped. So a codependent mother, a narcissistic mother will always control her narcissistic son, and it drives his wife crazy because he'd never stand up for anyone. He doesn't stand up for himself. He can never say no to his mother, and it causes a lot of marriage problems. And he's always torn between his wife and his mother. Always torn between the two. He never knows what to do. And he's often depressed and he's often miserable because his mother makes him feel trapped, and his wife's nagging and his wife's constant displeasure, his wife's constant anger and resentment towards him and his mother puts a really big strain on his marriage, especially if they have children. She will constantly demand that they move away, far away, another country even, just to get away from that narc mother who is ruining their lives, and he can't. He finds it very difficult to detach himself from a narc mother, and he finds it very difficult to actually see that his mother's narcissistic. A lot of these men don't want to face the reality that he's got a narcissistic, abusive mother who actually doesn't care if she ruins his marriage or not. She doesn't care. He's in denial. He doesn't want to face that. He doesn't want anyone telling him that his mother's abusive. So he turns a blind eye to what his mother's doing, and he just puts it down to, this is what women are like. This is what mothers are like. I have to be patient for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mother comes after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mother's rights and the Jannah's at her feet. He's brainwashed by all of that. Now, I'm not saying that a man should not honour his mother, but when you look at this relationship from the outside, you will see how abusive this type of mother is to her son. Because he's trying to please everybody. He's trying to please everyone. He's being torn in every direction. And it causes his wife to lose respect for him. It causes his wife to lose feelings for him. Because he's not, in her eyes, he's not man enough to stand up for his own family. And it often ends in divorce. And if it doesn't end in divorce, it's just a miserable marriage. He doesn't want to face the reality that his mother may be abusive. And if he knows his mother is abusive, he's not strong enough to stand up to her. He's not strong enough. And his father will be the same. Her father-in-law will be the same. He'll be very soft, and he'll be he would have been used as a slave as well by the mother-in-law. So he's thinking, if my father's like that, then what hope do I have? Just get on with it. And it's just very difficult to deal with. So that is, that's the issue with that, with a narcissistic mother-in-law when the husband is codependent. Now, if the husband is, if the mother-in-law is codependent and the husband is codependent, then they will just clash. They will clash. Again, it's another toxic relationship where there's a lot of control. And she will often, but she won't be as bad as the narcissistic mother-in-law, because again, she'll have compassion for her daughter-in-law. She will see herself in the daughter-in-law. And sometimes that can either make her hate her daughter-in-law, because when she looks in the mirror and sees that she's weak, it just causes her to dislike her daughter-in-law even more, because she sees herself and how she used to be when she was married to her husband growing up. She sees that, oh my goodness, this is what I was like. I was so pathetic. I was so weak. I was a slave. So when she sees her daughter-in-law, it can actually make her feel disgusted. And that's why she gets bad treatment, even from a codependent mother. Now, if the codependent mother has more empathy than narcissism, then the empathic side of her will make her feel compassion. And that's when the daughter-in-law will get gifts and sweets and good treatment and everything. Because at the end of the day, the codependent mother-in-law, she wants to keep her son's marriage together, for the sake of, social reasons as well. Like, oh, my son didn't get married, he didn't get divorced, and so on. Now, just going back quickly to the narcissistic mother-in-law, if her son is married to a narcissistic woman, even sometimes a codependent woman, and the marriage doesn't work out, a lot of those women will put it down to black magic. They will tell everybody, oh, everything was fine. Everything, everyone gave us ain. They gave us evil eye on that wedding that we did. That lavish wedding, in the British Museum or wherever it is that they hired out. She will put it down to that, because she knows that the divorce of her son is inevitable. It's coming. So you get a lot of narcissistic mother-in-laws. They pin the cause of his divorce on evil eye coming to them or black magic, because people are jealous. People are jealous of this woman who's married this amazing guy, this amazing surgeon, this amazing doctor, or they've given them evil eye because of this amazing wedding that she's done for them. And because of that, the marriage didn't work out. I'm going to do another podcast about this, about evil eye and black magic, and how people use it to justify narcissistic abuse. It'll be another podcast, inshallah. But I just remembered that now, and I just wanted to mention it because a lot of mother-in-laws do use that. They see that their sons are abusive. They see it very clearly. But because they're in denial, they don't want people to know that they acknowledge that their sons are abusive. They will always use the black magic card or the evil eye card. So if a woman is married to if a codependent woman is married to a codependent man, then again, just a quick recap, she will be treated badly if the mother leans more towards narcissism, and she'll be treated with compassion if she leans more towards empathy, because some codependents lean more towards narcissism and some lean more towards codependency, depending on where they are on the scale. So sometimes a codependent Muslim man will land himself a narcissistic woman. So if the woman is narcissistic and she lands herself a codependent man, then if his mother's narcissistic, she will elevate that son to golden child status. So maybe he's the slave. He's the one he's not really done much in his life, this codependent. He's not achieved much. He's just not done well in life. But he just lands himself a pot of gold one day and gets himself a narcissistic trophy woman. Very beautiful woman, but she's narcissistic. The narcissistic mother-in-law will elevate him to golden child status because now he's given her that social boost, that ego boost in society. Look who my pathetic son has landed. Look at the kind of woman he's landed. And again, she'll go through the whole big wedding, spending a lot of money, just to prove a point that this son has made her proud by bringing home a narc woman that she can show off, especially if she's beautiful. Now, the narcissistic woman would have preyed on that codependent man. As we know, narcissistic women love codependent men, and they would prey on them. So the relationship dynamic between her and her mother-in-law will be very toxic, because again, there will be that power dynamic of that power play of them competing for control over the codependent son. Now, before it was control over the narc son, now it's control over the codependent son. And why is this fight more toxic? Because the codependent is a natural people pleaser. He is a doormat to everybody. Whatever it is that they want, the codependent will do, because he's trying to make everyone happy. The narcissist he's not like that. When it's a narcissist, the daughter-in-law and the mother-in-law want control over him in the sense that he's mine. He belongs to me. However, the control that they have, that they want over the codependent is, I am the one who deserves to be served, not you. He's now my husband. He's got nothing to do with you. Go to your other sons. So the narcissistic mother-in-law, she's like, no, I depend on him. I manipulate him. I do everything in my power to get him to do everything I need him to do. And I've been doing that for years. You are not going to take that away from me, because I depend on him. I can use religious abuse and spiritual abuse and verbal abuse and everything, and he will still do everything for me. So if you take him away from me and you get all those benefits, then where does that leave me? So there's jealousy, and there's also that sense of, how dare you? You're not taking my son away from me. That all his serving is for me. It's not for you. So when a narc woman takes away a narc woman's codependent son, it would just be a horrible toxic relationship between the two. The mother-in-law will hate her guts, and the daughter-in-law will hate her mother-in-law's guts, because of that. So now the narc wife is like, no, I'm entitled to all of it now. He is to serve me 24/7. He's no longer your son. He belongs to me now. And I will tell you when I allow him to come and do something for you, to come and serve you. So can you see where it's it just gets really messy, really, really messy. And that's why a lot of narcissistic mother-in-laws, they have very good relationships with their narc daughter-in-laws for a short period of time before it turns really ugly. Because the initial good relationship that they have in the beginning is because the mother-in-law is so proud of her, so proud to have her in the family. She's showing her off to everybody. And that narc daughter-in-law is getting all that validation. So, as you know, a narc will only be nice to you when you give them that praise and validation and gifts and money, and you give them that importance and that ego boost. As long as you're giving them that ego boost, they're happy. Narcs can get on with each other, can get on well with each other for a very long period of time. Until the man who's in the middle starts to get pulled left and right, because now it's like, now we've entered reality. Now it's life. Where's his loyalty gonna lie? Is it gonna lie with his wife, or is it gonna lie with his mother? So it's exhausting. Both of them want full control over the codependent son. Now, if the codependent mother has an empathic son, if he's married to a narcissistic woman, he won't last very long with that narc woman. Why? Because, again, they have self-esteem. They've got self-respect. If he sees that he's made a big mistake marrying a narcissistic woman, again, he may stick around. He may stick around until his children are a bit older before he leaves, out of protection for his children. But he doesn't tolerate abuse. He already knows that he needs to get out of that relationship. He waits for the right time. So he likes to exit that relationship when it's safe to do so. If he has a codependent mother, she'll be really upset about that. She will try to convince him to stay, and he'll say, no, Mum, I've had enough. This is not what I wanted, and all that. If his mother's narcissistic, he would already have healthy boundaries with her. He would already have that distance between him and his mother because he knows that she's toxic. He knows that she's got issues. And that is why sometimes they do fall into the arms of a narc woman, because the narc woman can see that this man might be easily controlled because he doesn't have a close relationship with his toxic narc mother. So a lot of empathic women do prey on empathic men who are distant from their toxic mothers, because it's like, well, this is easier for me to control. This situation is easier for me to deal with. So these narc women might be women who just appear to be very religious, appear to be very nice, appear to be very, compatible with these guys. But these marriages don't last very long, because when an empathic man starts to see that his wife is very much like his mother, he wants to run for the hills. He doesn't stay and try to change her. He doesn't stay and tolerate the rubbish that she comes with. He is horrified at the fact that she's turned out to be just like his mother, and he wants out of that situation. Now, if he's got empathic parents, then that is always the best scenario. A man or a woman who have empathic parents, they always make the best in-laws, the most beautiful in-laws. They are the best family that you can belong to. It's rare though. It's rare to find a man or a woman who has an empathic father and an empathic mother. But they're often the best situations. Empathic son, empathic daughter, who's got empathic in-laws. So this is basically like summed up the main issues that women go through. I mean, if she's got a narcissistic father-in-laws, again, it will be because, there will be a narcissistic husband who's got a narcissistic father-in-law. Narcissistic father. He'll be very controlling. Narcissistic father-in-laws are incredibly controlling. They want to control the lives of everybody. They don't take no for an answer. They control their sons with money. They threaten them about inheritance. If you don't do this, you're not getting inheritance. And that's why a lot of marriages are strained, because when the father demands compliance and he demands that he's, always put as the priority in the family, it can cause a strain on the son's marriages, because when the father-in-law is always put first because of money, because the son is scared to lose his inheritance, scared to lose out on money, scared to lose out on business, or whatever it is that gives him a favourable position with his father, you will find that a lot of marriages break down. And codependent wives and narcissistic wives hate their father-in-laws. They hate them. Now, the same is vice versa. So a man who is married to a woman who has a narcissistic mother, his life will always be hell, because she will always teach her daughter how to deal with that guy. She will always give her the wrong advice, toxic advice. So if you see someone, if you're married to a woman and she's narcissistic and she's close to her mother, know that mother is narcissistic too. And they will gang up against you. They will always be ganging up against you whenever she has a complaint against you, whenever she wants to plan or plot a divorce or a discard. Know that the mother-in-law is egging her on. Always egging her on. Now, if a man is married to a narcissistic woman and she's got a codependent mother, then you'll find that they don't have a good relationship. They're always fighting, always arguing, there's disrespect. She just doesn't get on with her mum because there's no respect. Either she's a single mother, or, she saw her father abuse her mother for a very long time. A lot of narc children really disrespect their codependent parents for putting up with an abusive partner, whereas codependent and empathic children have more compassion. They feel sorry for their parents, that they had to endure that abuse, and they're more kind and loving towards that parent, the victim parent. But a narcissist will just lose all respect. So if you come across somebody and they don't have a good relationship with their parent, you will find that one of them is a narc and one of them is a codependent. Or they're both narcissists and they clash. Or they're both narcissists and they're very close. It depends. Did the mother put that child on a pedestal? Or was that child abused by the mother when they were young? These are questions you have to ask yourself before you get involved with somebody. You need to find out what that parent-child dynamic is. Someone who's got a horrible father, you don't want that father. You don't want that kind of father-in-law. Always look for your peace. Always look for peace. So for men, if you come across a woman and she's narcissistic, then be prepared to have narcissistic mother-in-law as well. No matter how nice her dad is, I'm telling you, this is advice from a sister to you. No matter how nice her father is, if the mother-in-law is narcissistic and she's close to her mother, you're not going to have a good marriage at all. Because she will always side up with her mother to plot and plan against you. The father will have no say. He will be a complete doormat in that relationship. A complete doormat. Even if he stands up to them sometimes and says, you know, what you're doing is wrong. Even if he stands up and he says to his daughter, you are the problem in this marriage. The guy is good. You're doing this, you're doing that. The mother-in-law will go crazy at him. How dare you? How dare you? So if they've got a close relationship because she was spoiled by her mother and she was put on a pedestal, again, a lot of men fall into this because they love the beautiful women. The beautiful women who are spoiled by spoiled by their nut parent, you're in for it. The woman who was overly spoiled as a child because she's pretty, because, whatever it is, know that it's going to come and bite you where it hurts in that marriage. Now, a woman who has a very bad relationship with her mother, I'm telling you, if she can't respect her mother, she will never respect you. And the same goes for women. Same goes for men, sorry. If he doesn't respect his mother or his father, he will never respect you. Always find out what kind of relationship these people have with their mums. Try and figure out who is the narc in the relationship. Who is the narc, the mother or the father? Then try and figure out, were they overly spoiled as a child or neglected as a child? And then you'll be able to figure out. You'll be able to figure out what it is exactly that you're dealing with. If you're codependent marrying a narcissist, you'll either be used as a slave or you'll be religiously manipulated and horribly discarded. If you're an empath, your marriage will not last long with someone who is narcissistic. If you're a narcissist, none of your relationships will work out. None. Doesn't matter how long you try to push it out. Someone's going to leave. Someone's going to get fed up and leave. If you've got a narc father-in-law, he's going to control your life. If you've got a codependent mother-in-law, she's going to guilt trip you into staying. Guilt trip you and manipulate you into staying. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you really want a happy marriage, if you really want to raise your children in a beautiful environment and have a peaceful marriage, then either marry people who already know that their parents are toxic and they've worked on themselves and they've worked on establishing boundaries with their with their families, so that you don't have to suffer with your in-laws. So these people might be codependent or empathic. They already know that their parents are narcissistic and they've already taken the steps to distance themselves. They've taken the steps to distance themselves so that they can have a healthy relationship and healthy boundaries with those narc parents, so that if you marry this person, you're not going to get sucked into all that drama. You're not going to get pulled into all that toxic rubbish. Because the narc man or narc woman already knows that they don't want you to get involved in all of that. So they might opt to, move in, live in a different city, live in a different country, maybe see the family once a month instead of every week. Whatever it is, boundaries have been established. So it's, even if someone comes from a toxic family, because that person has healed and worked on themselves and understands everything, it won't be a risk. It won't be a risk, marrying such a person, because they've already done the work in order for you to move into a comfortable environment. Or you marry somebody who's got an empathic family. Both parents are empathic. Even if they've got narc brothers and sisters, it won't matter, because as long as the parents are empathic and the person that you're marrying is empathic, then you'll be fine. Now, people who are raised by two empathic parents, rarely will they ever have narc or codependent children. Extremely rare. Like, it's literally like a 1% thing. And the only reason why their children might turn narcissistic is because when they're older, they just slip in with the wrong crowd. During teenage age, they might get influenced badly by the wrong people. That's the only reason. It won't be from the family. It will be from outside influencing. So if parents are both empathic, both religious, both kind, they're kind-hearted, they're just good, simple people. You just enjoy being in their presence. They are who they say they are. What you heard about them is who they really are. And the person, the husband or the man or the wife that you've married, they are who they say they are. That's the best kind of marriage you can be in. It's peaceful, it's loving, it's empathic, it's just simple. You've got a simple life with these people. And that's what you're looking for. So you're looking for people who have either healed and established boundaries already with their toxic families, or people who are already, they're just empathic people. People who've already got into a marriage the first time, they always get into those marriages naive. I was one of them. We're always naive in the beginning. We don't understand narcissism. We don't understand, the dangers of marrying someone narcissistic, because we brush the red flags under the carpet, because we don't even recognize them as red flags. We don't know that they're red flags. If for a lot of codependents, if a man says to them, or a woman says to them, I've got a bad relationship with my family, I don't talk to my mum, the codependent automatically wants to be the hero and fix that. Oh, it's okay, I will try and fix that. And then they really do try to fix that relationship, but it doesn't work. Because they don't understand that there's actually people with disorders in this environment. It's a disorder. It's not something you can just fix yourself. It's something they have to fix within themselves. But a codependent will not mind marrying someone from a toxic home, or someone from a toxic background, or someone who has abusive parents, because they kind of go into it with the intention of, I can fix this, or I can take him or her away from this environment. I can do this and I can do that. I can deal with that mother-in-law, no problem. Only to find that when they actually get into the situation, it's not what they thought. So a lot of toxic things that pop up when you're getting to know somebody about their family, in regards to their families, a lot of people brush them under the carpet because they're so infatuated with somebody. They always think that, I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with the in-laws later. I'll deal with all of that when it comes to, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. But they don't realise that if you get involved with toxic in-laws, they might take their children. They might take your children away from you. They might brainwash your children. Like, so much happens. I have clients who tell me stories all the time about this. And I come from a Saudi background, Arab cultural background. So sometimes when I hear about what women go through from an Asian, coming from an Asian culture, I'm horrified. I'm horrified at the obligation that a woman sometimes has to live with her in-laws. If she comes from a Bangladeshi background, Pakistani background, Indian background, like they're obligated to live with toxic in-laws. They're obligated to live with their brother-in-laws. This is not Islam. How is it Islam to live in the same house as your husband's brothers, even if they're married? That's not right. A lot of people are putting culture over religion. Like, it's not comfortable for a woman to constantly be wearing her hijab in the house. And even if she doesn't wear hijab, just the fact that she might be alone with her brother-in-laws in the house when her husband goes to work, when her dad-in-law or her mum-in-law goes to go leave the house, and she's left alone with her brother-in-laws. Guys, what's going on? This is not Islamic at all. And then you wonder why people have so many dramas. Like, I listen to stories sometimes about what happens in these Asian households, and it's like literally listening to a drama series. Too much drama. I always advise people to have your own independent home, marital home, where you can be comfortable, you can wear what you want. You don't have people watching you all the time. Your mother-in-law's not breathing down your neck all the time. Your father-in-law's not controlling everything. It's just logical. Guys, it's logical. Just because you move out of your home, your family's home, does not mean that you've cut yourself off from your family or you can no longer take care of your parents. You don't have to live so far away if your parents are elderly and maybe they depend on you. But to all live in the same house, it's not acceptable. It's really not acceptable. Some women might be okay with it. Some women, he might be the only boy, the only son in the house, and they've got a big house. Fair enough. If, especially if his father's passed away and he's only got one mother, like, there are certain situations that allow for that allow that to be logical and allow that to be the more merciful option. So if he's got one mother who's ill and she needs looking after and he lives in a big house, then it makes more sense for her to move in. It's just going to be them three, or maybe him and his, like one of his sisters. But the dramas that usually happen when the man knows his family's toxic and he brings another woman into that dynamic, or he's in denial of them being toxic. So it's really important that, this is addressed. I hope I haven't missed anything. I'm just trying to put all the pieces of the puzzle together for you so that you can understand it from different perspectives, like different codependent, narc, and empath perspectives. If I've missed anything, if I've missed a combination, do let me know in the comments below and I will answer it. But I hope that I've addressed it and that it all makes sense now and you know what you're dealing with. If you're in that situation and you don't have children and you're so miserable, you're being abused by your in-laws, you're being abused by, your husband or your wife, what are you in that marriage for? You need to get out of that relationship. You need to get out of that toxic environment, because bringing children into that environment is not going to help anybody. If you have children, then, there are different ways of dealing with that when toxic in-laws are involved. But a lot of women come to me and they say to me, oh, this is my situation. I live with my in-laws, or I live near my in-laws and they're horrible to me. My husband's horrible to me. He doesn't stand up for me. What do I do? What are you doing in that situation? What are you still doing there? So a lot of people really need to work on their codependency. Guys, please reach out to me. I do one-to-one counselling for this. I will get you out of your codependency so that you can stand up for yourself and actually make a decent decision for yourself in your life and your future. Your codependency stops you from leaving a toxic situation, and your codependency drags you into further problems because you're so scared to leave, because you feel so guilty to leave, because you're so worried about what people will say and how you'll look and being divorced, you now drag children into it. And you make your situation 10 times worse because of your codependency, because you have not healed from your codependency. I have a 6-session codependency program to get rid of your codependency. So please just drop me an email, author@themuslimnarcissist.com, if you find yourself in that situation, you know that you have to leave, but you can't. Okay, just drop me an email with a brief about your situation, and I will get back to you. I will help you. I will help you with it. And if you have children in that situation, I can coach you through it. I can coach you through how to establish healthy boundaries and how to deal with toxic in-laws when you have children, when children are involved. I'm always happy to help, because everyone's case is different. I can't give you a one answer for this in this podcast. Everyone's case is different. So feel free to drop me an email and inquire about my one-to-one counselling and coaching services. But I'll stop here. I hope, inshallah, you have found it beneficial. I hope it's answered your questions. If I've missed anything, please just drop it in the comments below, because your questions and the answers I give you benefit other people as well. Other people read them and they get their answers from them. So if you like it, please hit that like button. Share the podcast. Please do share it with people who you feel really need to hear this. And do subscribe to the channel. I do drop a new podcast every Friday. And inshallah, the next one will be a beneficial one for you as well. So yeah, I hope inshallah you all have a wonderful Ramadan. It's the first day of Ramadan tomorrow. May Allah accept all our good deeds and our fasting, and may it be easy for you, inshallah. Until next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.